I think we're on the air.
Sweet.
All right. Well, this is Module 10, and this is our fabulous group, Great Criminal Minds Think Alike.
Hmm.
And this week's discussion is on paratext. So, the question of the week is for us to discuss how our program, Criminal Minds, uses paratext to create anticipation and guide viewers to certain types of interpretation. Okay, so after reading the text and some of the information that we reviewed this week, my best explanation of how our program uses paratext is as I watch Criminal Minds, it's they don't do a paratext at the beginning of every single episode, but what they like to do is what I like about the show is there are 11 seasons. I'm going through it again, and I'm in season 9. And what I noticed is that they will pull things from previous seasons, or like cases from previous seasons, or situations from earlier parts of the season, and they want to revisit them. So whenever they want to revisit or they want to remind the audience of something that took place, they'll do a paratext. So recently we had one situation where um, there was a case where there was a serial killer that they were calling the replicator. And basically he was replicating various different murders or types of serial killing focuses. So maybe he was basically replicating serial killing techniques from cases that the BAU had been practicing earlier, had been working on earlier. So if there was one guy who was a rapist, or one guy who was killing families, or one guy who was, I think one guy was and he doing some kind, I mean, he was doing all kinds of crazy things. In order to reintroduce that to the new episode, they did a paratext to remind us of what happened before. So I think it draws anticipation to the audience. It gets us excited, and it also makes us feel connected because we're like, oh, I remember when that happened, and so there's something that's going to be going on connected to some old information. So I think that's how one way that our show uses paratext.
I completely agree, and also along the same lines of not just, well, yes, paratext, but not just like previews before shows, is also spoilers. And
Yes.
that's huge, especially with a show like Criminal Minds, where in the beginning seasons it's more about solving a case each episode, but eventually they get to the point where it's, longer cases over a longer time period. Or just connecting the dots from different ones. And so how you were saying how like that episode they were bringing up all these cases, well, it was the person was replicating previous cases. And so with that, someone gets a leak of that on the internet, spoils it everywhere, saying, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
so and so is recreating all these past like murders and crimes that we had and all of that. And so I think that's a part of it too, and it creates so much
Right.
anticipation when a spoiler is released, especially how we had looked at like in previous modules at like the chat rooms and fan
Mhm.
forums and things like that, the forensic fandom, and how there is so much anticipation. And if they get a little bit kind of, or like also a promo, like the show's promo
Right.
saying, oh, here's a 30-second mashup of the Tuesday's episode or whatever. And it creates this whole sense of anticipation of, oh, I got to see it, I got to watch it, which puts viewership
Mhm.
up because then, we all get busy with our own lives. And if it's the kind of people that like aren't watching it on Netflix and they're just watching it when the new episode comes out every week, they get busy, they might forget. But if, they're scrolling on their Instagram and they see, oh my gosh, look at this promo, or they see someone post on Twitter or wherever, spoiler alert for Criminal Minds, they see it and then they're like, oh man, now I got to watch it.
Right. And even for instance, I wonder, and as I was reading, I was trying to figure out if paratext is also not necessarily just on TV, if it can be on the radio. Like I'll be in the car, I drive to work, I commute to work every day by car, and while I'm riding in the car, they will give us some kind of spoiler information about a show episode that's coming up, and I'll have to turn the station because I don't want them to tell me what's going to happen.
Right.
Like even in other shows that I'm watching live right now, it you get that anticipation. Sometimes when you hear it, it makes you get really hyped. And then sometimes people, when they hear what's going on and they get a little spoiler alert about the next episode, they'll go to Facebook, Instagram, they'll go online to try to find out what's going on. It really makes you want to get more interested in what the next episode or the next, content of the next episode is basically going to be.
It's true, and I think it also goes back to kind of the idea that no one ever wants to be left out. People, right. And I mean, just like a innate part of human nature, everyone wants to be in the know, or to never feel like they're not necessarily at the center of attention, but knowing what's going on where. And so if you're one of those people that takes your shows really seriously and you're watching them religiously every week, then you don't want to be behind the game with all these other people, especially if you go to work or have friends that watch it and they're like, oh, well, you heard what's going to happen, right? And you're like, no, what do you mean? You want to be the first to know, even if it is a spoiler and you're upset that you found out. You don't want someone else telling you. You want that to be all you.
Absolutely. I think that's pretty much it. I'm completely obsessed with finishing the series again.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I'm watching it. Like I said, I started a couple weeks ago from season 1, and now I'm in season 9. And now I'm getting really upset because I just started season 9 today. So I'm getting really upset because there are only 2 more seasons left on Netflix before I go to the live episode. So I'm like, I hate when I start to get to the end because the show is so good. And I can't believe I've watched 9 seasons of it in 3 weeks. I'm a maniac.
Hey, but it's all for school, right? That's the excuse.
It is. It is really good. All right. So it looks like we're good to go. And I'll be talking to you throughout the week about our project.
Sounds good. Talk to you later.
Yeah, next module.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.